What up, ladies and gents? This is George Bean, and since tonight I'm doing a review on on a sequel to a movie I've already reviewed yesterday, Independence Day. And if you haven't seen my review, you can find a link to the video in the description box below this video. But I'm about to go into a retrospective on how I first heard of news on Independence Day 2. So if you want to skip it, you can skip the video to this part right here. So, here it goes. Back in 2002, I started to hear small news of there being an Independence Day 2 being developed by director Roland Emmerich and co-writer and producer Dean Devlin. And of course I got excited for it. That was when I was like around 9 years old. I was honestly feeling a bit pumped for it, as I heard that they were also wanting to get the first film's star-studded cast back. And I was loving it, picturing Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum back together, cracking more oops jokes at each other while fighting more aliens. And I was also reading rumors of how they claimed that the film would have opened with the White House being rebuilt, and how the character Dr. Oaken, played by Brent Spiner, was going to come back being possessed by one of the aliens to trigger a second invasion. While I felt the alien-possessed Oaken was a bit far-fetched, I did like the idea of showing humanity rebuilding society after the first invasion, and how they would respond to the second invasion. But then I thought to myself, well, the main highlight of the first film was the city destruction scene, where the alien ships blow up the cities. So I was thinking to myself, how are they going to top that in the sequel? But after a couple of years of waiting, in 2004, Emmerich eventually nixed the possibility of the sequel being made, claiming that they felt the story they had for it wouldn't live up to the first film and do it justice. And because of that, I eventually gave up on it, facing the fact that maybe dreams don't come true, and accepted the fact that this sequel is never going to see the light of day, ever. But since then, I've been having dreams of where I was browsing through a video rental store, and I would find Independence Day 2 on a shelf, and I'd get all jittery about it, glad to find it. But then I would wake up from my dream, the revelation of it being a dream sinking in, and I begin to groan in anger about it. So that's what happened. My wish for an ID4-2 being real thus began to influence in my dreams. How sad is that? But then in November of 2009, while promoting his new disaster film 2012, Roland dropped hints that the ID4 sequel is once again being developed, with the possibility of splitting it into 2 films to being shot back to back, thus turning Independence Day into a trilogy. The 2 films were going to cover a story arc focusing on humanity reverse engineering the alien technology to retrofit their rebuilding society, and once again battling an upcoming and second and more dangerous wave of the aliens. He also discussed that wormholes would be introduced into the sequels as a plot device, giving a detailed explanation for why it took the aliens 20 years to return to Earth. He said that with wormhole traveling, it would probably 3 weeks to the aliens, but to us it would be 20 years. It will also reveal that the first invasion was basically the ground troops sent to weaken the aliens into being defenseless, so it was the vanguard for a much bigger invasion. They also said that the 2 films were going to be called ID Forever Parts 1 and 2. To be honest, at first I was just like, because I just didn't want to get my hopes up out of fear that they will just get crushed again if the sequels never get made. But on the other hand, it did rekindle my anticipation for the sequel, as I love the idea of wormhole traveling, and I loved how they're giving a very good explanation for what took the second alien invasion so long. But then, apparently, 20th Century Fox and Roland Emmerich had stated that the only stumbling block for the sequels being made was Will Smith, because he was apparently too expensive, but we'll get back to that soon enough. So because of this, any further news on the sequels once again died out. down, and I was like, well, what do you know? History repeats itself. However, since then, there were still talks on Fox, Emmerich, and Devlin discussing over whether or not to still make the sequels, regardless of Smith's involvement. Then they revealed that the two-part plan was dropped, and that only one sequel will be made, with the third installment being made if 2 becomes a success. And there was even more news that in May of 2014, Fox had hired writer Carter Blanchard, who doesn't have any background, who has never written a film before this, to rewrite Emmerich, Devlin, and James Vanderbilt's script for ID4 2. Apparently, Blanchard's script impressed the Fox executives enough to finally give them the go-ahead to make the film, and they also eventually decided to make the film without Will Smith's involvement, thus making his character's stepson a major character. But I was still like, I'll believe it when it is officially announced. But then in November 2014, Fox had finally announced the sequel to be made, giving them the green light, with it set for a June 2016 release. And as the months progressed, it was announced that half of the old cast would be returning, including Bill Pullman and Brent Spiner, along with a new and young cast, which consists of Liam Hemsworth, Maika Monroe, as well as many others. Then it was revealed via a Twitter message by Dean Devlin that principal photography had just started on April 20th, about almost 2.5 months ago. So henceforth, after hearing all these news articles regarding ID42, I instantly that it is pretty much safe to say that finally, after over 10 years of waiting, Independence Day 2 has officially become a reality. A dream that's finally come true to my very own eyes. And you know what my feelings are to this? 2 words. Thank God. That 2-decade-long wait was exhausting. My reasons for saying this? Well, after having seen that Hollywood has been making a string of sequels, reboots, and remakes to keep making money, and it seems to not be dying down anytime soon, I felt that it was going to be inevitable that Independence Day may end up being rebooted or sequelized, similar to what seems to be happening to Emmerich's other film Stargate now. After having watched the first film a few more times, and while it does seem to end on a conclusive note with no apparent intention for a sequel, I've begun to see some certain moments in the film being intentionally left unanswered, which seem to have been done to set up a sequel. Multiple examples being, as we've explained before, Dr. Oaken's fate, as the first film never explained his fate. If it weren't for the sequel, we would all assume that he's dead. But now that the sequel's being made, it will be explained that he has been in a 20-year coma. Another example is that the film immediately ends after mankind defeats the aliens, so we're left questioning, how will mankind, now accustomed to the global destruction the aliens have left Earth in? Their cities are now destroyed, half of the human population has been wiped out, there's very little of the US government, so how are they going to recover from the invasion? So now it seems that the sequel will be answering all those questions. Recently, an official synopsis for the film has been released on the net, and it explains to us what to expect in the sequel, and I quote, set 20 years after the War of 1996, and using recovered technology salvaged from the remains of the alien forces, the nations of Earth have collaborated on forming the Earth Space Defense Program to protect their planet. However, the original aliens were able to send a distress signal before their final defeat, which results in a new task force of alien ships coming to Earth and threatening the human race once more. With the second wave of aliens preparing Earth for annihilation, only the ingenuity of a few brave men and women united together can bring our world back from the brink of extinction. So as you can tell in the synopsis, that certain plot concepts that have been thrown around are all coming true, that the remains of mankind will reverse engineer the left-behind alien technology to help rebuild society and upgrade our weapons and fighter jets to be prepared for a possible second invasion. Roland Emmerich revealed two advanced vehicles for what that will appear in the movie. The first one being what he called a human-alien fighter jet, which is a hybrid of human and alien technology, and that thanks to the harnessed alien tech, the jets now use anti-gravity for its engines. That's cool. I saw the jet, and instead of fuel engines, the anti-gravity engines are like blue halos that glow up, and it causes it to fly. The second advanced vehicle revealed was what Roland called a moon tug, which is described as being like a forklift machine, but on the moon to lift heavy objects. And speaking of the moon, another interesting detail we've been given is that as part of their defense program, mankind had also built a base on the moon, and in the cast and crew interview, the set they were in was said to be a moon shuttle bay. So that means we will be visiting the moon in the sequel. I think that's really cool, and I have this feeling that this may end up setting up a sequel that brings mankind into outer space, but we'll get more into that soon. And also, I believe the idea of the aliens using wormholes to travel through space can help explain why it took so long for the aliens to come to Earth at certain points in times. Like for example, how I imagine it for the first film, that alien fighter craft that crashed land in 1947 in Roswell, maybe it was acting as a scouting ship to find other planets for the aliens to pillage, exited a wormhole next to Earth, and accidentally crash-landed. It may have also sent a distress beacon out to its superiors on the other side of the galaxy to lead them to Earth's location. So for us, it would take nearly 50 years for the mothership to show up, but for the aliens it would probably be just less than 3 weeks for them. And it also explains how we didn't notice the mothership until it was right by our moon. It must have exited out of a wormhole right behind the moon on a course for Earth. The mothership is now revealed to just be the first wave, acting like the drones sent out to cleanse the planet, get it ready for their superiors to come. But when they realize their defeat by the humans, they send out a distress call to their main superiors, who are still on the other side. So these big guys are going to be coming with more advanced and deadly technology, and now for us it would just take 20 years for the aliens to come, but to the aliens it would just be at least a week, based on how wormhole travel works. So speaking of the cast, as said, most of the cast from the first film will be returning, and they will be having different character arcs in the sequel. Jeff Goldblum will be returning to play David Levinson, an MIT graduate and former cable repairman, who now acts as the head scientist researching the alien tech and learning how to harness that tech and reverse engineer it into our technology, such as redesigning the fighter jets and whatnot. I'm really glad that Goldblum will be coming back, as he played the character David really good in the first film, and I've seen a recent set photo of him as David, and I gotta say, it's good to see him back. Time to bring back the Us. Of course, Bill Pullman will be reprising his role as Thomas Whitmore, but he will not be the U.S. president anymore, since the film is set 20 years later, so his term of office is way past due. Once again, I'm glad that Pullman is going to return, as I enjoy this role as President Whitmore, and even though it may be unfortunate that we won't be seeing him flying a fighter jet in this film again, but he will still be important in the plot. Thanks, Lone Star, for coming back. But it is apparent that the U.S. government is still around in this franchise, as the new president is a woman named Lanford, played by Celia Ward, who in this film will be her second collaboration with Roland, their first being The Day After Tomorrow. I think it's cool that they're going with a female president in the film, and yeah, I like how Celia Ward is in it. Victor Ward, whom you may know in recent films he's been in, such as The Dark Knight, Elysium, and the Michael Bay-produced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, will be playing a role in this film as a top military general named Adams, but we'll be getting to him soon as well. If you might remember, President Whitmore's daughter, Patricia, was played by Mae Whitman, who was a child at that time, but now it seems for some undisclosed reason that Mae had been replaced in the role with Maika Monroe, who's just getting into stardom with her recent horror film It Follows. But there's just one problem I have with this. Mae Whitman has proven to still be acting to this day, and has proven to be able to carry a film on her own. So all I could say is, what the hell? Why not just cast Mae back into the role? I don't know about you, but I believe they did this just to make the character more attractive compared to Liam Hemsworth. Speaking of Liam Hemsworth, he is also a new addition to the cast. You may know him from other recent films such as The Hunger Games, and is also the brother of Chris Hemsworth, who plays Thor in the Marvel movies. Liam will be playing what is said to be the lead role of the sequel, a hotshot pilot named Jake Morrison, who is also Patricia's love interest. Jesse Usher, who is in The Game Stands Tall, will be replacing original actor Ross Bagley for the role of Dylan Dubrow Miller, the stepson of Marine pilot Stephen Hiller, and according to the internet sources I've stumbled upon, it seems that Dylan will also be Jake's co-pilot, and that they will be shown resenting each other at first, but will eventually work together in the fight. An unfortunate thing to the cast is that Will Smith will not be returning to play his character Stephen Hiller. It seems that Will was the primary reason as to why it took so long for the sequel to get off the ground. Apparently, given that he is now a major A-list Hollywood actor, he demanded a $50 million salary to star in the initial two-film project. And since Will Smith has gone to the point where he also gets a percentage of money from the box office grossing of any film he stars in, Fox tried to convince Roland and Dean to make the movie without Will Smith. Roland and Dean at first felt that the sequels wouldn't work without Smith involved, since he is one of the many reasons why the first film was successful, thanks to his performance as Stephen Hiller. But now it seems that they've decided to move forward with the sequel without Will Smith, and have his character written as being killed off sometime between the Part 1, Independence Day 1 and 2. In my opinion, I'm honestly okay with this, because it was also stated by Roland why they went without Will is because Independence Day is always intended to be an ensemble film, and they felt his star power would just eclipse the other characters in the film. And another reason they pointed out is that after Will's movie After Earth failed miserably, he ended up becoming reluctant to return to sci-fi. I can really understand why. It is a shame that he won't be returning to the film that launched his career in the first place, but I honestly believe that this movie is going to do okay without Will Smith. And as for the supporting cast, even though half the characters remain unnamed until a later time, the supporting cast members consist of these people. Judd Hirsch will be reprising his role as Julius Livingston, David's father. Vivica A. Fox will also be returning as Jasmine Dubrow Miller, Stephen Hiller's wife and now widow, who is also now working as a head nurse for the military, I believe. Certainly a good step up from working as a stripper. Brent Spiner will be returning as Dr. Oaken, who is revealed to have been in a coma, but then suddenly... it's never stated what his role will be in the film, but we'll probably get more details in the build-up to the film's release. Charlotte Gainsbourg, who had also been in a couple of Lars von Trier's films, such as Antichrist and Nymphomaniac, will be playing a character named Dr. Catherine Marceau. Patrick St. Esprit, who is in The Hunger Games Catching Fire, will be playing the new Secretary of Defense, who's named Tanner. I seem to have this deep feeling that he'll be our film's foil/semi-villain that we've seen before in Roland's past movies, that government hack. And last but not least, teen actress Joey Keane, who was just known for being in The Conjuring, will be in this movie, which is to be her third collaboration with Roland Emmerich, their previous two being White House Down and the yet-to-be-released Stonewall, which is said to be based on the true story of the 1969 Stonewall riots. As I've mentioned before, the sequel was initially going to be titled ID Forever, or in some cases Independence Day Forever, but I've heard a lot of people on the net claiming their distaste towards the title, claiming that it sounds, in their words, stupid and feels it needs to be changed. Of course, this title was for when they were planning to shoot two sequels back to back, but now it seems that they've instead decided to just film this one sequel because, according to Roland and Dean, they felt making two films would be considered to them as arrogant. So with that being said, now that they focused their attention on making just a sequel, the title was tentatively Independence Day 2. But just last month, on June 22nd, a video was released on the net showcasing the very first promotion of the film, featuring director Roland and most of the cast giving us tidbits of what to expect in the movie, which confirmed, and they've also revealed an official title for the film, which is now Independence Day Resurgence. And to be honest, I really like that title. It's definitely a better title than ID Forever. Another thing I ran into is that, according to what is said about William Fichtner's character, General Adams is a character whose role is said to will be expanded in the supposed Independence Day 3 and 4. So it seems that they're still planning on making an ID4 Part 3, but for now they're playing it by ear with Resurgence and waiting to see if the fans like where they're going with the sequel. So if Resurgence becomes a major success, then they'll go and make ID4 Part 3. I'm wondering, exactly how far are they going to go with their proposed franchise? How long are they going to keep going with having mankind fighting alien invaders? And are they going to end this film with a cliffhanger? But I have this feeling that that's why they're introducing the moon base in Resurgence. Maybe they're setting up mankind to leave Earth and travel into the far reaches of space? Maybe have Independence Day 3 set in outer space? We'll see when Resurgence comes out. Another detail I've stumbled upon is that a couple of film geeks, when interviewing Roland, found that Roland had found a way to put Earth into danger again for the sequel. They say that this particular scene just might end up topping the city destruction scene in the first film. That's got me excited. I wonder how this scene is going to play out. You can truly tell that these people are making the sequel not mostly for money, but out of passion and to tell a worthy follow-up. Don't believe me? Just look up on the IMDb trivia board for ID4-2. And one article says that sometime after ID4-1 was released, Fox paid Dean Devlin a large sum of money to pen a script for a sequel. And though he did write a script, he instead gave the money back to the studio as he felt that the sequel he wrote wouldn't live up to the first film. So it proves that they really want to make a worthy sequel that lives up to the original, instead of making it as a worthless, cheap rehash of the original. I mean, even the plot is different from the first films. Despite having the aliens come to Earth and destroying landmarks again, and more battles between alien ships and human fighter jets, so it is not rehashing the first film, but acting more like the next chapter in this supposed epic story. So to wrap this video up, I really cannot wait to see this movie. I have high hopes and faith in this movie. I believe it's gonna be amazing. The plot sounds interesting, and the idea of reverse engineering alien technology is a cool and intriguing concept. It's nice to have some of the original cast back, despite Will Smith not returning. With the original filmmakers back, it shows that this is a passionate project. Independence Day Resurgence comes out on June 24th, 2016. We are only 1 year away from its release, and I have hopes that it ends up taking us by surprise. So, thank you ladies and gents for watching, hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Peace!